Hey everyone. The episode you're about to listen to is about the Japanese horror movie Pulse and the video essay that I made about it 5 years ago. Now, this is a movie about suicide that does depict suicide in a number of different ways, and my video, and consequently this episode of the podcast, do discuss that to some degree. And I know that some of you really don't want to spend any time with that topic right now, so I just wanted to let you know right up top. Okay, let's begin the show.
Like, my family usually does a big extended gathering thing, and so I usually come and watch them shoot off fireworks. But like, a bunch of people are getting divorced in my family, so it ended up just being me, my girlfriend, and my parents. And we didn't even shoot off fireworks. We just sat and watched around us as everywhere else in small town Iowa was shooting off fireworks.
Now, when you say everyone is getting divorced, is this one generation of your family reaching the divorce threshold, or is this like multiple generations all hitting this?
It's one generation is doing a big amount of it, but yeah, there's just a bunch of like family shit that's happened over the last couple of years, so everybody's a bit awkward about gatherings now, I think.
Oh, no. I'm kind of imagining this as sort of like, you know, the Unification Church. We're doing the opposite of that. We're doing big mass divorces. Here's Reverend Son. He's very anti-gun, and he divorces everyone all at the same time.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the worst of all possible worlds, the first and only podcast that is getting mass divorced. I'm the worst of all possible Brians. And I'm the only one saying that today. For the first time, I am the only one of the three hosts that is available. And this is because I am now divorced from Josh and AJ. They are dead to me. I get to keep the podcast, but they do get to see it on weekends. No, they're both doing plays. They're both, each of them doing multiple plays, different plays from each other.
Worst of all possible worlds reason to have your hosts missing.
And as you can hear, I'm not going totally solo this week. I am being joined by our wonderful guest, Josiah Sutton of the Fruitless Podcast and YouTube channel. And we're using the opportunity this week to go back to an idea that I wanted to do a really long time ago, which was way in the early days of the Patreon, when we were a YouTube channel. This will come up more over the course of this. Yeah. Once we had a few videos in the bag, I thought about setting like a subscription tier. Once we have this many people subscribing, I will do like commentaries on different movies. It's also kind of a precursor to Fancy Movie Time. And so I thought, the first one I would do would be a commentary behind Pulse that talks about both Pulse and the video essay I made about Pulse. For those who don't know, Pulse is a 2001 Japanese horror film that came about at the same big Japanese horror boom that brought us The Ring, that brought us The Grudge, that brought us Dark Water, One Missed Call. And I made a video essay about it in 2020 when I was also unemployed then from any theatrical ventures, very suddenly. So I've already talked about this movie. This is not going to be an episode about the movie Pulse. You can go watch the video. This is going to be something that's kind of looking at Pulse, kind of looking at the video essay, kind of looking at the other things that I base the video essay on, and really just this idea of ghosts from the internet.
Yeah,
because that's what the movie Pulse is about. People hook up to the internet, ghosts come out of their computer, and everyone in reaction to that kills themselves or just becomes so depressed that they become a stain, literally just dissolve into the walls and the floor. And
it's kind of like one of the essential movies of the 21st century in my mind. Like, because I did like just a Patreon episode on Fruitless where we did the like top 10 movies of the 21st century ballots, right?
Yeah.
And I put Pulse on that because I think like a movie about looking at the computer so long you want to kill yourself is, I think, the entire experience of the last couple decades. So
yeah, I mean, the title that I made for that video is I knew from the start that like I couldn't make a title for it that I liked because I wanted to make something that was algorithm friendly or something. So it's
Yeah,
called
yeah.
Pulse 2001, How J-Horror Predicted 2020.
Perfect video essay framing.
I think, and I like the thumbnail I made for that one, which is this
It's really
great
good, yeah.
image from the movie of a news anchor's head kind of cut off, and then the text just says the new normal. But I feel like, I should be soy facing in it or something. Maybe do like the Wojak face, but I've removed the top half of my head.
Yeah, just the soy, but it's just the soy mouth. It's not.
Today, the internet is something that is just so omnipresent. Even just like computers, everything you do, as the president once said, everything's computer.
Everything's computer.
In like 2021, I was still living back in New Mexico. There was a point where someone was doing repair work on the railroad and a backhoe cut into the ground and severed a fiber optic line, and it cut out everything in town. The power was still running, but like phones,
No
which means
internet,
like,
yeah.
I mean, and no internet, no cell phones, no landline phones. Everything ran on one single cable. Because like growing up, I feel like anyone who grows up in like a rural area, you've had your like outages. Something gets fucked up during a storm or whatever. But usually the systems are separate from each other, right? The power could go out, but the phone could still work and things like that. And then it's like, no, now everything is all just on one big wire.
Yeah.
And now we just use it too to just access the internet. Everything goes through the internet.
Yeah. Well, when I was working from home, that was always a nightmare too. Cause the same thing would happen where like a fiber optic cable gets cut and then suddenly I'm not able to work for a day. And then it's my fault for some reason.
Right. Yeah. In Japan, there was also like a little bit of a slower adoption by like most people. As opposed, like there was pretty quick adoption of the internet, pretty quick adoption of like there were high definition TV broadcasts in the early 90s. But like as far as like most people in their homes, internet adoption moved, I think, a little bit slower than it did in the US. Like this is coming out in 2001 and they have a whole scene that's a guy figuring out how to install the internet service.
That's one of the best.
Which is also called Uranus, which I think is great. It's
that's awesome.
It's so on the nose. and I think about like Perfect Blue as well, which is like you have her kind of trying to figure out how to install the internet or like how to go to the little fan site that reveals that it's just stalking every minute of her life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the sense of like the danger that the internet provided too. It was like you go to some website and you can find out that like, someone is stalking or someone can get into your life through conversations, through email.
Right. Yeah.
Or you're just browsing around and you come across a dead body or a giant gaping asshole or
Yeah. Well, then that's what like Pulse has, that vibe. Like, I haven't seen many movies that really can capture the feeling of like being up late at night as a kid and then feeling like you stumbled into something you shouldn't have on the internet. And like, that's the vibe of a lot of the movie. Like every time it looks at a screen, it's just something weird and unsettling, and it has that same feeling of like, I don't know what's about to happen.
And just like that text, would you like to see a ghost, just sort of drifting in. And then there's no yes or no. There's just, I guess I'm here now.
Well, that's kind of speaks to the internet too, right? There isn't actually really a yes or no. It's like, it's an endless stream of content going into your eyes. You can like try to control your algorithm, but you have no control over it anymore. You know, your experience on the internet is completely outside of your control. So do you want to see a ghost? And you're not allowed to say yes or no. We're just going to fucking show it to you.
We're going to show you so many ghosts. One thing I do have to recommend for people who might want to watch this movie after this, if you watch it on streaming, especially in an English language, English speaking country, the version that has the hard coded subtitles, like from the film, that is the version to watch because it's brighter than the versions that they release on like Blu-ray and stuff. So like the version that I was pulling from, because that was the Blu-ray data, in my video essay is, in my opinion, too dark. That you miss a lot of really important detail because of how dark they decided to make it. It's actually kind of a bright, kind of a beige movie more than like this sort of blue shadowy thing. And I think one of the best illustrations of that is in those sequences with the ghosts, because I think the dark version of the movie that you see on Blu-ray is like sometimes you don't really see them, and it is spooky, but they're so much better seen, especially the ghost that's in the store towards the end. That's like a cardboard cutout, and the guy with the trash bag on his head.
Oh man.
Because in the dark version of the movie, you kind of can't see what happens once he finally takes that trash bag off, which is just that it's a normal face. It's just a guy, like nothing happens.
Something about that, even the normal face is the most horrifying thing when it happens because of the anticipation. Like so much of like what works with that movie is that it's not jump scares. It's not whatever. It's like you see something and your brain doesn't quite know how to make sense of it. And then it just keeps not making sense.
Yeah.
And holding it. Like the scene of her like walking toward him. Like that's like one of the best ones, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's that like weird movement where she like goes down a bit and then back up. It just like sends chills up my spine because it's just not a movement a person does.
Yeah.
You know?
This is why I think this is something that works really well in the sort of bizarre Silent Hill movie. This is why you hire dancers to play ghosts, because they can do this really unusual stuff.
Yeah.
That scene, that's the whole reason I knew about the movie in the first place, because I used to be a big AV Club reader.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And Mike D'Angelo had this series of articles on the AV Club called Scenic Routes. You can read them today, but they used to have an embedded video in each one. He'd sort of introduce or write part of his essay and then have this one scene that he clipped out of a movie, whether it's Pulse or The Headless Woman or something like that. And then he's analyzing it afterwards. Fantastic article. It's something that got me to watch so many movies when I was in college. Sure. And he talked about Pulse because he had seen it at a film festival, and there was a blurb that he wrote when he was at Time Out New York that is on like the DVD case for Pulse, like every time it's re-released. So he was like going back to the scene that he was discussing. And it's that scene. It's that scene where Yabe goes downstairs after going to the apartment. You see the stain on the wall. Then he's just in this weird little kind of storage room that just has a couch in it.
And the like red paint on the wall, which is so unnerving.
And then sees this ghost come towards him, and the strange like action that she does where she kind of stumbles, but it's almost like it's on purpose. And you can't tell if they're like over cranking it or if she's just really moving like that. Like her speed kind of fluctuates. Very inspiring. I did a show in 2019 where I tried to like recreate that movement in one segment.
Oh, hell yeah.
Where I'm like walking down a hallway.
That's sick.
And that's that, like watching that, I was like, fuck, I need to see this movie. And for such a long time, people couldn't see Pulse in the US. And I think that added to the sort of forbidden quality of it.
Oh, that would add a lot to if I'd seen it for the first time in that context where it was like something I had to hunt down. Oh man.
Yeah. Like it was first like theatrically released in the US in like 2006 because Weinstein was sitting on it.
Oh, right.
Because they were going to make a remake, and there is a remake, and
no one watches it.
It's not even bad enough to hate it. Like there's just no passion in it whatsoever. It's like a bunch of people did it for a paycheck, and the producers were breathing down their necks. So they're not even happy about like the workaday kind of job that they did on it.
That's such a bummer. Cause like, I don't know, like The Ring is a pretty solid, J-horror adaptation. That works plenty fine.
And then for The Grudge, they just got the actual director of The Grudge to come over and make his like American version of it. Yeah. And like there's something you can like go to with both those movies and be like, why did they make this decision instead of doing this like it was in the original? And with the American Pulse, there's just so little to talk about. Yeah. It just sort of happens.
Yeah. It's just the same movie, but worse and in English, essentially.
Yeah. Right? So Kiyoshi Kurosawa, no relation to Akira Kurosawa whatsoever. Just happens to be another prolific filmmaker with the same last name. I mean, he really came from nothing. He was just a guy who really wanted to make movies. In the 70s, I don't think he made a single feature-length film. Everything he did was self-financed short films shot on Super 8 film. And the guy hustles like crazy.
Yeah.
And then somewhere he like broke into the straight-to-video market, which I think in a lot of ways was actually bigger in Japan than it was here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And so he was making pink films, which are kind of
pornos, kind of.
Yeah, like softcore porno kind of stuff. Yeah. and a bunch of crime films, a lot of straight to video Yakuza movies.
Yeah, like exploitation movies.
But yeah, and in the US, of course, like exploitation movies had a good theatrical life. You'd go to the shittiest theater in town and see, Sweet Sweetback or whatever. And in Japan, it was like, nah, just take it home. Like VHS adoption was really, really high, whereas DVD adoption, I think, didn't become ubiquitous until basically the PlayStation 2 came out.
Oh, wow.
And that was the other thing. When people were bootlegging copies of Pulse to bring to the US, it wasn't on DVD. It was on some other variety of disc-based format that only had any kind of purchase in Asia for 2 years. And so imagine that sense of getting this weird, probably getting it off of eBay or some other weird seller and then having to get a separate player and sticking it in and seeing this strange movie about how things from the internet will cause you to die.
It being in probably worse quality probably added to it a little bit too at the time. I'm thinking of, to reference video essays, right? The big H Bomber guy essay about, I think it's Alien. Is it that the movie where he talks about how the lower quality in the VHS stuff adds a lot to it because the CG is really dated and stuff like that. But if it's a bit blurrier, it looks better. I think of that with the handful of CG moments in Pulse, which look really dated.
Oh my God. Most of them are okay, but that plane shot, again, he had a budget and he was like, I want to crash a plane. And because it's not just the plane, they tried to make it feel more realistic by adding a camera shake to it. But it's an artificial camera shake. These days, artificial camera shake looks fantastic. You would never know. Yeah. Just about everything you watch uses artificial camera shake. And here it is, it's just, it's embarrassing. I hate that whole shot. It's just cut the whole shot. Just put her right inside.
I don't think it adds that much because you see so much of the abandoned Tokyo that you get enough of the apocalyptic, everybody's dying feel that you don't really need the plane crash.
The music goes between really off kilter and wonderful, like the scary sequences where there's just one woman going, ooh.
And it's so unnerving. Yeah.
And then the scenes where they're trying to do some sort of really emotional thing and the synth strings come in and you're like, okay, this is a little much, don't we think, Kiyoshi?
Yeah.
So he'd been doing the crime movies and the Pink movie. He did a musical somewhere in there too.
Oh, really?
And he did a horror movie called Sweet Home, which is kind of an important horror movie because it was a sort of developed concurrently with a video game. And the video game was this little Famicom RPG where your party is a cameraman and a newscaster and the people who are going into this haunted house, in the movie. And it's sort of the basis for Resident Evil.
Oh,
it kind of sets up a lot of the survival horror ideas. The movie itself is fun. If you didn't know it was from the same director, I don't think you'd ever be able to figure that out yourself. Stylistically, it's totally different.
Well, that's what I'm curious about this early Kurosawa stuff because I haven't seen any of it. And I've only seen Cure and Pulse.
Yeah.
And so I think of him in this very slow, long shots, eerie, that kind of feel. But it sounds I can't really imagine a Pink film having that vibe. I assume that probably didn't, or it'd be
the camera's really far away. No, a lot of what he did before was very conventional. Some people have a style. They're able to develop it early on and they just go in with it. And then some people never force a style. It just sort of, they develop something over the course of, because he's made 60 movies. He has directed so much shit. Between Cure and Pulse, Cure was 97, Pulse was 2001. Between those two movies, he released 7 movies.
I did not know that. Holy shit. So many movies.
So just endless hustle. And he writes most of them too. He's not just a journeyman director. I don't really know how he does it. And I think that's the thing. He just doesn't think, he just goes. He just has an idea and he runs with it. Mm-hmm. And so his movies are pretty variable in quality. I don't think Sweet Home is that great of a movie, although there is some fun puppet work and stuff. But Cure, in many ways, it's almost like a better movie than Pulse. I think if I had seen Cure first, I'd probably be this is the movie I'm going to attach myself to for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Cure's really good. I think Cure is like technically the better one, but Pulse having the internet component makes it feel so prophetic the whole time.
Cure is like, it's more sophisticated. It's more adult, right? The characters are older.
Feels more like a Criterion Collection film of his movies.
Yeah. And it's more ambiguous towards the end. In terms of tone, in terms of what the story is about, they're both kind of the same thing. They're both about the sort of like
social contagion of, I think the real difference is just whether it's suicide or homicide, right? Like that's the main difference between the two. It's just Cure is like a murder epidemic spreading.
And Cure kind of came out right around the same time as the sarin gas attacks. And so people were able to sort of draw this. I think the original name for it was like Evangelist or something like that. And so they had to change the name kind of last minute because that guy, the guy who's causing it all, the mesmerist, I think he refers to himself as an evangelist. There's sort of a cult element to it at a time where new religious movements were very big. But Pulse does that same thing where it's just like this unthinking entity of the internet. It's just this channel that brings all of this behavior to totally unrelated people.
And an epidemiology, like you talk about in the video essay, right? There's the epidemiology to suicide. And then I guess with Cure, it's not directly terrorism, but I feel like that's kind of the implication, like, which there is that. I mean, depending on how you define, obviously terrorism is kind of a politically loaded term, but like, violent acts of some sort, right? A lot of school shooters are fanboys for previous school shooters. There is an epidemiology kind of built into it, right?
I mean, because I grew up in an area that has a very high suicide rate. I grew up in a reservation border town, and reservations extremely high. And I went into that a little bit in the video. I didn't want to get too deep into that stuff, but there's a lot that goes into the difficulty of these sort of statistics. And there are historical precedents too. There's like a wave of suicide that gets blamed on like a Goethe novel that has suicide in it, right? In the early Romantic period. There's, in the same way in Japan, there's like the suicide forests that people know about, probably because of Logan Paul.
Because of YouTube. Cool.
Where like the reason people go to that forest was because it was from a famous story from the 60s. So like there is that cultural element to it, but it's also just so, it's so bewildering. You can see that there's some kind of pattern, but the closer you get to it, the less it makes sense. The less you're able to say, okay, well, this does it.
Yeah, sometimes it's well, and I think I might just be repeating your own video essay back at you, but it's because it's often it's often a quick decision made, but because of long-term circumstances.
Yeah, there's like a history to it.
Yeah, so you need the like a mechanism in order to do the quick decision aspect of it, which is why guns play a big part in it. The most common act of gun violence is suicide, not shootings, as we typically assume. So like, it's the combination of hopelessness and then having a very quick way to make a quick decision.
And that's what makes the movie kind of weirdly prophetic, is I think a lot of that is sort of accidental. Yeah. In the same way that like The Ring was using videotapes, there was this sort of look at different parts of technology, and recent technology, new technology, whatever. The internet wasn't a thing that most people spent all day on, even though there were plenty of people who did. Like now it's in your pocket. Now it's just this thing. If you're feeling bored, if you're feeling awkward, okay, I'm going to pull it out and look at whatever is on my social media platform of choice, right? Scroll through whatever. And then it becomes this fixate. Like then it becomes a habit that you form that I don't think was quite as possible when it's a desktop that sits in your home. That you have to connect, you have to wait, you have to hear the until it hooks up. Things took minutes and minutes to load, right? That's one thing he's kind of compressed in the movie. You go to the website, you're seeing streaming video on your screen in 2001.
Probably not. It calls a lot of where things are going. I think like a lot of technophobic stuff from even get back to the 80s, because I bring up Videodrome all the time, right? The Cronenberg movie. A lot of those movies, like they feel really prophetic, I think, because our life has become media. Yeah. Like, especially post-COVID, but it was obviously happening prior to that. But like everybody's life is just drowning in media. And so what felt like a bit of a dramatic, over dramatic take on TV in the past or video games in the past or whatever, now it kind of doesn't feel melodramatic anymore. Like there is kind of something to Well, yeah, I mean, media does seem to kind of lead us to like dehumanize the people we know in our life and all these little things that I mean, like, I think we're being said by techno pessimists for decades prior. We're kind of right.
We make fun of the artwork that's like someone is like looking at their phone and then like there's like two weights around their neck that both say Facebook on them or whatever. But like those are stupid because they're so obvious.
Yeah, that's why they seem silly.
Of course we're weighted down by this shit. Like, say something else. And I think it's also like, I'm standing up for stupid artists right now. It implicates us, right? It's an ugly feeling to be like, okay, am I really like this much of a cuck to my own computer? Like, there's so much of that impulse. It's like, well, I'm bored right now. What should I do? I have all these books on a shelf. I have, I could look at something that does not have a computer chip in it, but everything else is over there. So I might as well, I'm not turning on the radio. I'm turning on podcasts or my Spotify or whatever.
No, absolutely. Like, we don't go to that. And then, because of that, I mean, kind of to get to the video essay format a bit, right? Like, I think that's played a big role in why like people are craving what they get out of reading. Yeah. But they can't read.
They cannot read.
No one. And I say this is like very guilty of that myself, where I'm just like, I'm fighting this really hard lately too, of like, no, I need to get off my phone and like read again and learn how to read for pleasure even. Yeah. Like I just like have completely lost that. Every reading I do feels like homework for the podcast. I'm not just like reading for fun. Yeah.
Everything is the stuff that I monetize. Like that was something I got into that habit even before I got too addicted to the internet by just being an actor. And then like everything I read was scripts.
Yeah.
So, instead of like actual books, instead of things I would enjoy. And then when I do read books, it's like, oh, this is research for something that's down the line. I'm reading about something that's kind of fucking horrible and miserable. And it's like, maybe I just need to find a story that would invigorate me and make me feel the way that like a really good movie does. Like I do it occasionally with movies, but even I watch less movies now. And that's just fucking sad, dude.
That's a fight. Why is like my brain able to watch, like a long video essay about a movie? Yeah. But I still do watch a lot of movies, but I will go through periods where I like won't watch a movie for like a week or whatever. Yeah. Because it requires my attention in a way a video essay doesn't feel like it does.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.